Luka takes on his former team. We had 6 other games as well. Let's recap all of Tuesday's NBA action. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and this is my revenge podcast. And I've got a list of names and grievances that I'm going to go through and we're going to call them all out right on this show. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Double bang this one and also head across to lockedondaily.com and check out the newsletters over there. Your favorite team, sign up, get them delivered into your inbox free. 5 days a week, getting that information that you need to know about your favorite team. What day is it today? It is National Carpe Diem Day. So, if you've got any DMs that need carping, today's the day to get that and check it off your bucket list. We're here to talk about the games, the action, the goings-on across the NBA from Tuesday. Let's just start with a little bit of news. Some updates on the Sixers. Eric Gordon is having surgery on his wrist. We sort of knew that was where it was going. I would be very, very surprised if Eric Gordon plays again this season. We still have absolutely zero update on Kyle Lowry at his hip. I will be very surprised if he plays again this season. And Joel Embiid is listed out again for Wednesday. And I will be, once again, very, very surprised if he plays again this season. That is not a guarantee. I do not know whether he will play or not. I've got absolutely no idea. But it doesn't look like it, does it? And the Sixers are really, really, really quickly heading down into the tank. Gershon Yabusele is also out, so we're going to get a lot of Boner. We're going to get Drummond as well. That's all they've got. They're the only centers that are available. Unless you get some small ball Roddy, which we all love a bit of small ball Roddy, that's what they're going to be doing. The Jazz and their injuries. So let's check in. Walker Kessler is questionable with his illness. Colin Sexton remains out. Lauri Markkanen's back soreness. He remains out. John Collins, I don't even know anymore. I don't actually care. He's out. But Jordan Clarkson is returning. So we are maybe going to get like a half-mast Kyle Filipowski. Maybe. If Kessler's out, then it's full Philly. But is it just half Filipowski if Kessler plays? Does Kessler and Filipowski play together? Does KJ Martin play at the 4? It remains a complete mess. Just tell us these guys are done. If we get Markkanen and Collins out like 4 or 5 in a row here, I reckon they might be done for the year. I'm not sure about Sexton. Looks like he's going to be returning soon, but that's where we're at with those guys. Kawhi Leonard's returning for the Clippers, so he's back after 2 games out, but Norman Powell remains sidelined. Powell has not played since the All-Star break, so I don't exactly know what's going on with that knee. We hope everything's okay. That obviously means more for Chris Dunn to do, more for Bogdan Bogdanovic to do, more for Jones to do, more for Coffey to do. But Bogdanovic and Dunn, especially Dunn, are the more interesting players in that particular spot. Let's talk waiver wire trends. Who are the most added players over the last 48 hours? The number 1 most added player is Kelly Olynyk in New Orleans. They've got a good schedule. He's starting at the moment. I don't think that he's going to be this league-winning long-term guy, but while he starts, there is value in using him, and while the schedule makes sense, I get it. The second most added player is the horse, Keldon Johnson. He was the guy that I looked to add as part of my streaming plan for today because the Spurs have got this Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back, and that's part of the streaming plan. We'll check in on that game later on. Moses Moody, also the third most added player. I think as soon as John Kuminga comes back, there's no chance of Moody being anything more than a single spot stream. I don't mind streaming him here. I don't think there's any long-term appeal there. The next one, Chris Dunn. He was excellent yesterday, and now he gets another opportunity on Wednesday. I think he's pretty close to just being a guy to grab and seeing what actually ends up happening here. The next most added player is Zachary Ricochet. Of course, that was completely dreadful on Monday. If you did use that ad on him, they've only got one more quality game this week. You might be able to use him Friday as well. I don't know, but they don't play on the weekend. So it's going to get to that stage where seeing how your matchup is, seeing where you sit, whether you need to move on from him, whether you need to hold him. I think in a lot of cases you can hold and see what happens in these next couple of games, but obviously didn't work yesterday. And people added George Niang as well, and he was fine. They're going to play again tomorrow. He's fine, but he's absolutely not someone that we look at as being a must-roster sort of player. The most drop player, it's very interesting, isn't it? Number 1 there is Bol Bol. Guess who started today for the Suns? Yeah, Bol Bol. So, yeah, there wasn't really any indication that was going to happen because he had gone from starting to playing 9 minutes. And I wouldn't say he's playing particularly well in those 9 minutes, and then he started today. So, these things happen. There's not a lot. You could sit there and go, man, I should have held. And sure, but nothing would have suggested to you that you should have done that. And there are situations where you could sit on that and hold it for weeks, and nothing reverts back and he plays 9 minutes a night and you've just burnt every opportunity to get streamers in. So we'll see how it goes. Do I have any faith that Bol is going to remain starting? No. Why would you? But we'll see where it goes. Nikola Jovic and his fractured hand, he's out at least 4 weeks. I get the feeling that his regular season might be over. Precious Achiuwa, most dropped because we see that the Knicks players are back, although Karl Anthony Towns is listed questionable. So if Towns is out, then Achiuwa is going to have to play some more minutes. But that's okay. He's fine to drop. Charlie Bassey, he's out again. Yep, bone bruise, knee. They said he's day-to-day, but we're not holding on for someone like that. Bub Carrington, while they continue to muck around with the minutes and the rotations, you don't need to be sticking to Bub. And the last one there is Dracaris Levert, who was pretty poor in the last game. Interesting that Ricochet and Niang are the most added guys while Levert is dropped. And I think that's just because those guys had some good games on the weekend and Levert had struggled. But that's who they are. These are who these players are. They're guys that you add them and hey, let's see what happens. And then they're bad. Then you drop them. Then you add the next guy. Then you drop them. Then you add the next guy. Then you drop them. And I think that's just going to be the way that this sort of tracks consistently through the rest of the season. So let's just go straight into the first game. It is the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors. And this really annoys me. I give a lot of leeway with teams and injuries and all that sort of stuff. You know how I operate with this stuff because we're not there. I don't know about some of this stuff, and I think it's unfair the way that some of this stuff gets treated and reported. This from Boston is absolute bullshit. And Sneaky Joe Mazzulla, the sneaky one, he said it after the game. When I was trying to do projections for these games, the Raptors are playing Tuesday, the Celtics are playing Tuesday against Toronto, Wednesday against Detroit. They've got Porzingis and Horford, and they're going to sit one half of back-to-back. So I projected that both Porzingis and Horford would sit on Tuesday against the worst team, and they'd both play on Wednesday. That's what I thought would happen. But then the injury report came out, and Al Horford was listed questionable Tuesday. Porzingis wasn't on the injury report. I go, that's weird. Okay, they're splitting them up. All right, whatever. That's okay. That's what they're doing. That doesn't make sense to me. I would think you just want to play your better players against the Pistons and beat them, and you should be able to cover it against Toronto. But whatever. And then about a minute before the game started, the Celtics slyly just submitted a new starting lineup through after they'd announced Porzingis as a starter. They slid a new little starting lineup through saying, hey, by the way, Torrey Craig's starting and Porzingis isn't. I tweeted this out, of course. I said, hey, Porzingis is a late scratch here. What's going on? And that is what happened. And they said, oh, he's doubtful with an illness. Yeah, sure. And then he was ruled out at halftime with that illness. And then after the game, Sneaky Joe was like, yeah, as soon as there was any small sign that he had an illness, we thought, yeah, better just keep him out so we can hold him out to play him against Detroit. Yes, Joe. Yes, we know that. Why would you have to be sneaky about it? Just rule him out. There was never any intention, I believe, of him being in this game. And then they have to get a fine for this. And they won't, because the only player to ever get a fine for an injury report is Trae Young for some reason. But for him to not be on the injury report at all, imagine he's there and he's ready to go and he's ready to play and he's ready to start. He goes, oh my God, I feel so sick, I can't play. No warning to this at all? Is this my tinfoil conspiracy? There was no reason for him to play this game. It made sense that he was going to sit. And then they did sit him anyway without any forewarning. That's bullshit. They need to get fined for that. And the thing is, they could have just said, hey, yeah, he's sitting this game. It is ridiculous. Anyway, Sam Hauser started for Drew Holiday, and it was Torrey Craig who started for Kristaps Porzingis. It wasn't that way in the second half. What was it? It was in the second half. It was Peyton Pritchard finally got to see part of that starting group, and he started over Craig. Let's talk about the Celtics, and it is hard to read into this with Porzingis and Holiday and Horford and even Luke Cornett all out, and then Jaylen Brown getting banged up during the game. But Pritchard played 35 minutes. I think, what did he play, 17 in the last game? He's been very much all over the place. He had 20 and 7 with 4 threes and 2 steals. But you're going to have Horford and Porzingis. They've already said that those guys are coming back. How convenient. After the game, as soon as we saw a sign of illness from Porzingis, we thought he better not play. He's actually going to be fine tomorrow, though. Thanks, Dr. Joe, Mr. Miracle Cure over here. So they're both going to be available. But they've done this. They are low-key annoying at this because remember the jokes were they really jokes? But I used to say every game for about 3 years, Al Horford's out with back-to-back spasms because they would just list him out with back spasms every single back-to-back. They did it every time. And I said, it's back-to-back spasms. They do it all. They do this all the time. What are they trying to get out of it? I got no idea. Derek White, 38 minutes, 22, 3 and 5, 3 steals and 2 blocks. Tatum had 11 assists. I think he had 9 in the first half here. And the one to watch, though, is Jaylen Brown. He had 24, 5 and 4, which are good numbers. But he hurt his leg in the first half. He played through it. Then he went to the bench in the second half with some difficulties, obviously. He came back in. He was fine. He scored a lot of points. And then he didn't close the game. They closed with Neemias Queta. When you're closing with Neemias Queta over Jaylen Brown, you think there's something wrong there. I would say Jaylen does not play tomorrow, would be my guess. So therefore, Slam and Sammy Hauser and Peyton Pritchard, we're going to get boosts. But you're going to see Porzingis and Holiday return. Neemias Queta played 20 minutes. He had 8 and 5 with a block because 3 centers were out. So don't read a huge amount into that one, while Torrey Craig had 4 in his 15 minutes. The next side of the game is the Raptors, and we thought that they sort of shelved the Jonathan Mobo starting experience, but they went back to it. Mobo started, Orlando Robinson came off the bench. They're making it seem that Jakob Poeltl is going to be back any time now, but I guess I'll believe it when I see it. I do think that Poeltl is going to play, but I don't know. It's frustrating. Mobo had 4 and 4 in his 22 minutes, while Robinson had 4 and 2 in 14 minutes. I think what this tells us is we can't trust any of it, and it's going to be back and forward stuff. Rowan Barrett was very good here, apart from the 1 of 2 from the line, but 22, 8 and 3 is great, and Barnesy had 21, 3 and 6 with 2 steals. Good game from Scott. Not the best quickly game. In fact, it was pretty bad. No peripherals, no threes, no steals, no blocks. He had 10, 6 and 8, which I guess the 6 and 8 are good. The field goal percentage and the scoring is a little bit low. Abaji was all right. So was Dick, who had 12 and 5 with 2 steals and 2 threes. 32 minutes of Dick is... It's probably not quite enough, especially given the low usage, but like the 2 threes, the 2 steals, that's bordering on good Dick. At least he is streamable when he plays that much. Not much else going on, I don't think, in that one for the Raptors. Chris Boucher, who had the double-double the last game, he had 8 and 2 in 14 minutes. He just continually reminds us, do not fall for the Chris Boucher banana in the tailpipe. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That is over 8x the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 per month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8x the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November the 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. All right, let's do the next game. This one, a bit of a bloodbath here. The Cavs over the Magic, 122-82. That is, the Magic, oh man, after such a promising start to the season, they get their players back and now they're terrible again. We'll start on Cleveland, who had no Darius Garland again. It's really hard, how do we judge this? Because the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell played 23 minutes. He had 11, 3 and 5. Jarrett Allen played 25. Okoro started and played 24 minutes. Mobley was just 28. Ty Jerome, again, was ridiculous. 58% shooting on another insane usage. What was it? Like 36%. That sort of usage and that sort of shooting is just not a real number. It's not something that has any way of holding, but he's done it so many times. But like, what do I take out of this game where the starters barely played? They played less than half a game for some of them. One of the All-Stars didn't even play, and Jerome was able to get like every shot in the world to fall. I do not buy that he can continue to do that, but he is doing it. So I look at him as a streaming sort of a player, not as a must roster, but the numbers suggest that he's more than that. And I can't, in all good faith, project him to continue to be, 35 usage on 70 true shooting. That's a ridiculous number, but it's what he's doing. Max Strus had 17 with 5 threes, and DeAndre Hunter had 17 with 4 threes. They're both really good games, but how much of this game do we take? Look, how real is it? Like, the answer is it's just not. It's just not a real sort of a game. Everything went in. They shot 56% as a team. They're a really good team, obviously. But even if you are a really good team, you're not going to hit these level of shots every game. I think a lot of this stuff you can just sort of throw out. Dean Wade had if you've got the players, you love the numbers. There's no question about that. But in terms of, hey, what does this mean for the value of these guys moving forward? I don't know if it means anything. Like, I'm not going to rush to add Strus. One quality game left for the week. I'm not going to rush to add Hunter. I'm also not going to rush to add Jerome, personally. I'm not going to do that. Okoro had 8 and 4 with a steal and a block. Wade had 5 and 7 with 2 steals. Like, they're usable-ish sort of lines. But I'm still not going to do it. Because there's just a lot in that game where I go, okay, that happened, whatever, all good. Not sure there's any predictability or projectionableness out of that. So we just move on to the next one. And it's a pretty similar situation, honestly, in Orlando, because they scored 82 points. But the thing in this one that's different is that they had the same starting lineup. I don't think they will in the next one, because Cole Anthony at the end of the game hurt his knee. And he had to be carried to the locker room or helped into the locker room. He played 21 minutes. It doesn't appear that Jalen Suggs is going to be back this week, so we can take a flyer on Mr. Black. But you know what's going to happen if you add Anthony Black? Probably nothing. Black played 22 minutes here. And after, what did he score last game? 17 points? He had 2 here. One of the most inconsistent players in the entire NBA. He had 2, 4, and 2 with a steal, with a block. I like the steal and the block, but bro sometimes doesn't even get usage. Remember earlier in the season, they started Trevelyan Queen, yes, over him. Like, okay, I get the feeling that could be a long-termer for Cole. I don't know when Suggs is back, so if you wanted to say, hey, what do I do? Maybe it is Anthony Black you look at. But they also gave extra run to old mate Jet Howard, who had 2 points in 16 minutes. They were trying anything to get anybody to do something. And they couldn't do it. Paulo was fine, 26, 5, and 4. Inefficient from the field. Franz Wagner, 19, 5, and 4. Both guys had a 1-1. Both guys had bad field goals. But the counting stats were there. The problem is that there was nobody else to help. Wendell Carter Jr. is not a 12-team must at all. 9 and 6 with a steal and a block. Goga Badadze is obviously not a 12-team league player.
Get that garbage out of here.
Goga played 8 minutes for 1 point. Now, this happened last year. It has obviously now happened again this season, but it's one of the ones where, again, you've just got to be really cautious about. I think it's probably the endowment effect, Jer, is that you grab a guy like Goga off waivers and you go, man, they're so much better with him. He just needs to keep starting. Surely they realize that. And you ignore the evidence that the team doesn't feel that way, and then you just keep believing and you keep buying, and you keep buying, and you keep buying that it's going to stay that way, and then it just turns the way that, realistically, if you looked at it neutrally, you would say this is what's going to happen. Because that is the pattern that the coach has shown, and they did it again. That's sort of like when we talk about Bol later on with Phoenix. Like, he's starting again today, but are we going to get Buddy Hielded in a week? Maybe. It's just usually the way things go. So, yeah, you can drop Gogo. You don't have to hold Wendell Carter. You consider Anthony Black, and then it's like a mixture of Trevelyan Queen and Jet Howard. But bloody hell, they need Jalen Suggs back. Ever since Jalen Suggs has been gone, they have been like just dreadful, really. We've got more games to talk about, including an overtime game between Phoenix and Memphis coming up next. But today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. Yeah, NBA fans, get ready. Because if someone drops 50 points, well, they're swooshing and you're saving. Because thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. Whenever a player scores 50 in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon until midnight. Well, you want to get something ready for a watch party happening the next night? Well, you can do it if someone drops 50 and get that nice little discount pocket. You just want some lunch, a snack, a snacky snack, a little something to nibble on, a little bit of a nice little noshy, something to grab. But you can do it if you've got Dash Pass and if an NBA player scores 50 points. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50. From noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right. Phoenix, Memphis, overtime, 151-148. The Suns lose to the Grizzlies. Like I said at the start of the show, the Suns decided that Bol Bol was going to become a starter again, and I guess given the way that they used him, 32 minutes, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 threes, and 73% shooting, including 83 from the line, you have to go and grab him. Except, right, that is not going to stick. But that doesn't matter, honestly. Like, it's not going to stick because he won't shoot 73%. And we know when someone comes in, they get put into that role, and then every shot goes down. The coach goes, oh my God, I am a genius. Look at me. I made the move. I started him. Everything clicked. Wow. All five players, 20 points in a game. How good am I? We didn't win, but I did it. And then, of course, they don't go in at 73%, and we'll see what else happens. So, for now, like last time, by the way, he was a -12, a team worst, so be aware of that. But while Bol starts, you roster him. When Bol moves to the bench, you can drop him. Much like you can drop BDNR, Nick Richards, who played 16 minutes for 6 and 4. He's clearly not the answer, nor is Tyus Jones, who had 3 points in 12 minutes. But because they keep losing, Budenholzer just keeps mixing and matching because he honestly doesn't know what to do. This feels like the most toxic team in the NBA at the moment. Booker had 28 with 10 assists, Durant had 26, 8 and 7, and Bradley Beal, the pariah, he decided he was going to go off. 24, 5 and 11, 2 steals and a block. Beal could barely do anything. He was playing 28 minutes a night. He was coming off the bench so Ryan Dunn could start. And now he's playing 43 minutes a night and absolutely cooking. What an odd case with Bradley Beal, where you drafted him at around 70 or 80. He suffered some injuries. He was bad. He got benched. And now, could you possibly get like a top 35 player rest of season? That's what's happening. That's what he's doing. He's like rolling top 40 last 2 weeks. And they're just pumping the minutes into him. What we also got in this game was 30 minutes of Grayson Allen, 21 with 6 threes. But Royce O'Neal, who went to the bench, played 14, 15 minutes. Again, how could you possibly predict that? How could you also predict that Royce O'Neal would have 10 and 4 with 3 threes in under 15 minutes, which is still a really good line? But Allen, O'Neal, these guys are streaming players. You don't fall in love with them. You don't add them and go, they're the guys, we've got to have them, because the minutes are going to be all over the place. We also got, absolutely out of nowhere, 34 cockroach Mason Plumlee minutes. 7 and 7, 2 steals and a block. What Plumlee is a rebounds and field goal percentage streamer, but I'm also not going to sit here and believe that he's going to play 34 minutes tonight, because I'd be an absolute dickhead if I believed that. And Ryan Dunn played his 6 minutes. Remember when he was starting? And yeah, that's not happening anymore either. On to the Grizzlies. They rolled out the same starting group. Des Bane, after a couple of quiet ones, had 43 minutes, 25 with 9 assists and 2 steals. Santi Aldama played 32 minutes. He had 17, 6 and 5, 3 steals and 5 threes. He's playing extraordinarily well again. He's been up and down, we know this, but this is a really good run from him. And Jaren, who I had on the Buy Low show today, well, do we get a bit of a bump? A little bit. 28 and 6 with 3 threes, 1 steal and 2 blocks. Still couldn't hit his free throws, but was basically unmissable from the field. Speaking of not able to miss, I won't speak about Ja Morant because bro went 28% on 25 attempts. He did have nice counting stats, 24, 4 and 8 with 2 steals, but bloody hell. This guy has been so ridiculously annoying this season. At least he went 14 of 14 from the line, but that is a horrible, horrible field goal percentage night. We also, after I think he played 22 minutes last game, we got 40 minutes out of Jalen Wells. It was a strong game from Wells. 19 and 5 with 5 threes, but you know what it wasn't? A strong game from Zach Edey. There is no reason to be rostering Zach Edey in 12-team leagues. He had 8 and 8 with a block in 20 minutes, and Brandon Clark had 14 and 5. These are just stream-level players. While Vince Williams, who'd pushed up to 20 last game, well, that didn't work out, did it? Because he went back to 13 as they gave more to Jalen Wells. This team is deep. So they've got Aldama, they've got Edey, they've got Wells and Clark and Kennard and Williams. And they can just mix and match depending on performance. And I think we're getting to this stage a little bit in fantasy, just in the real NBA. The NBA, despite what you and your old head friends or mates or dads or parents or whoever say, there's no talent, the league's terrible, everyone's soft, they don't know how to play, everyone's shit us. They wouldn't survive in the 80s, mate. LeBron would be like a bench player. You score 2 points a game, you get cooked in the lane every time. No chance. Back in my day, just get in there, mate. They played real defense. They were real men. They knew how to work, mate. Despite all that talk, the NBA is the most loaded and talented it has ever been. And it's to say that players are interchangeable feels like I'm shortchanging them. But we desperately do need some level of expansion. I know what you're going to say. Well, there's so many bad teams. There's actually not that many bad teams. There are some bad teams, but there's guys that sit on teams. There is groups of players. Teams will have like their 3-4 main guys. They'll have like 8 or 10 players who are of similar-ish sort of level of overall talent that coaches can just mix and match whenever they need to. And for us, from a fantasy perspective, that's where I think we get some frustrations. We're going to talk about it in nearly every game. Okay, why did Vince Williams play 13 minutes? Why did Jalen Wells play 40 when he played 20 last game? How am I supposed to know that? The answer is you can't, because that's an adjustment that happens in-game. There's not this big talent disparity where every bench player is Taylor Horton-Tucker and the coach will look over and go, can you just stay out there? That doesn't happen because he can throw 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different guys into different roles. They're not great players. They're not all-star level players. They're not good NBA level players necessarily. They're solid average role players. But when you've got 7 or 8 of them on teams, coaches can go in a million different directions. So I do it here with Jalen Wells. Go look at his minutes. They're well down. Oh, they're well up, sorry. And that meant that, Luke Kennard didn't hit 20 and Vince Williams didn't hit 30, didn't hit 15, and Zach Edey, who'd played 28 minutes if he was on a different team, he only gets 20. And guys like Scottie Pippen is a DMP and John Conchar is a DNP, but they could find 20-minute roles on other teams very easily. And if something happened and one of these guys struggled, they'd just slot in and they'd play and they'd be useful. And that is a thing that is, I think, I've done a bad job, and I think we in a fantasy space and community haven't really, I guess, clicked onto that as well as we should have. That we get so frustrated with the roles of these players, like even on Phoenix with Bol or O'Neal or Allen or Jones or Plumlee or Richards or whatever. The coach can just do whatever at any point, trying to find the right options, whether it's someone's playing well or someone's playing poorly. But it's not a situation where they go, I'm definitely not playing you. They just have a number of playable guys. Or if you go back 10 years or so and look at the back ends of benches, you go, Jesus Christ, why would this guy be playing? The talent level, the bottom end level talent especially, is so much higher than what it used to be that creates some of these rotational conundrums. Let us go and do the next game. Hope that made sense. Milwaukee and Houston, the Rockets win at 100-97 is your final score here. We'll start on the Milwaukee side. Same lineup for them. Yanni was limited to 32 to 34 minutes, apparently, which is a very weird number, but he played 31-44, 27, 10, and 6, just a standard Yanni game, except he hit free throws at 75%. Lillard was not as good as he's been. 22 on 22 shots is inefficient, but overall the counting stats are solid. And we got another 33 minutes out of Big Boom AJ Green. That's 2 big minute games in a row for AJ. He had 12 and 5 with 4 threes. At least we got just keep it in our brain. Use it when we're streaming. He played more than Gary Trent, who played 20 minutes. Starting legend Andre Jackson Jr. played 2 seconds. And Kyle Kuzma was, I don't know, you might want to just brace yourself. Shithouse. He was bad. I do not believe that you roster Kyle Kuzma in 12-team leagues. And this maybe this ties back into my point, is that we can look in fantasies as the guys between 100 and 180. It's not that much difference. So Kuzma's not good enough to absolutely plaster himself into a spot. The artist formerly known as the amino acid legend Torian Prince, the surprising number there is the 5 assists. The 3 steals is good, and he can do that, and he hit 2 threes. He starts, and the minutes of whatever, he's not really anything more than a stream option, while Brookie Lopez had 12 and 8 with 3 blocks. Kevin Porter's revenge game ended up with 4 points in 11 minutes against the team that unceremoniously traded him away so he could get cut and be put out of the NBA after so many beefs, and he left that team during meetings because he hated the way they treated him. He had so much animosity against the Rockets. He went out for 4 points in 11 minutes on 29%. He did block 3 shots, but yes, he was putrid. I don't think that you should be rostering Kevin Porter in 10 or 12 or 14 team leagues. I don't think there's any need for that. No need at all. On to the Houston Rockets. Let's talk about that because Tari Eason returned, and they just moved Jabari Smith to the bench. So, okay. So Smith comes back, plays off the bench, starts the second game, but then moves back to the bench again? That's incredibly interesting, isn't it? So Fred VanVleet's not going to play again tomorrow. He should be back for their game on Saturday. And then we get to the thing, what happens? Does Eason move to the bench? Does Amen Thompson start at the 4? How are they going to run this? Because we still got 33 minutes out of Jabari, who had 13 and 8, which is fine. It's probably in the TMC, the streamable zone. Tari Eason had 12 and 6 with 2 steals and a block, and I'd rather have Eason over Smith, and he played big minutes. And Amen Thompson got ejected, but not before he played 34 minutes, and no, he won't get suspended. He had 9, 9, and 6 with a steal and 2 blocks. Pretty good, but his production has dipped after that really, really ridiculous run. Amen's production has dipped, and I think it will continue to dip when other players return. But how they run this is going to be incredibly interesting. We had this man on the buy low bump today, Jalen Green. He had 25, 8, and 3 with 5 threes, and he hit his free throws. So let's see how that goes. And then Dylan Brooksy Brooks, 16, 8, and 4 with 4 threes, a steal, and a block. A great game from Brooks. He's probably due for a stinker tomorrow. while Şengün had 23, 11, and 3 blocks. Brooks remains an elite streaming level option, and I'm guessing that Tari Eason's just not going to play tomorrow, given again that it is a back-to-back and he's had that issue with the tumor on his leg. The next game is the San Antonio Spurs and the New Orleans Pelicans. Still no Charlie Bassey. Seems like he'll be out for maybe one more game, maybe tomorrow, then he can come back after that, but I'm not sure. They started Bismack Biyombo again, and it's really hard to get a read on his minutes. It's 12 or 14 in one of them, it's 30 in the next. In this one, we just decided to go straight down the guts. 23 minutes, 10 and 12. Is that usable as a stream? Like, I guess sort of. It's definitely not something you're going to high prioritize, but it's usable. What we wanted to check was what happens to the horse Keldon Johnson, who people were clamoring to grab. And I believe that it is worth the grab because you got the 2 games here, Tuesday, Wednesday. But as a long-term winner, absolutely not. And he had 11 and 4. Of course he did. He hit 2 threes. He had 2 steals. He still shot really well. So it is actually going to get worse for Keldon from here. But it's fine to have him just for now. Only 19 minutes for Sohan. Now you could look at the line, 12 and 9, 2 blocks. You would love that. That's great. If you do that every game, you'd probably find a spot on the roster. But not if you're going to be a 19-minute player. And everyone was very ready, incredibly ready to drop Devin Vassell. He had 20 points with 2 threes, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. He still didn't shoot well. So this is not a case of a Keldon Johnson of him going at 85%. He shot 38%. So he can actually still get way better. If someone dropped Devin Vassell, go back and at him. De'Aaron Fox had 15 and 9 with 6 steals. That's great. And Chris Paul, 12 and 10 with 2 steals. Big games from those guys. Mamu played 12 minutes. And guess what is going on with Steph Castle? I mean, I know what's going on. He's not that good. But 4 points, 12 minutes. Who wants to jack him?
Get that garbage out of here.
You should jack him because he's shown absolutely no reason for us to believe that he is a consistent fantasy producer. And now the situation where Wemby is not there, they're just saying, no, we are not giving you extra opportunity. You are not playing more. You are doing way less. Now, this is extreme. As much as I do not believe in stardom for Castle, which I don't, I think he's a better player than this. And him playing 12 minutes is actually really weird. I don't quite understand why the minutes have been as down as they've... Now, to be honest again, he did have 4 fouls here. So, yeah, 4 fouls is going to keep the minutes down. But that hasn't been every game. It's been a absolute shit run the last 3 games from Castle. I would not bother rostering him. He will have games where he pops off, absolutely. But the only reason I say that maybe you could hold is because they just play again tomorrow. And what benefit are you getting, especially because you can't get a Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back in because there is no Wednesday, Thursday back-to-backs. So you hold maybe for that. But the idea that Castle is just a must-roster fantasy guy has never made sense to me. It's never really locked into me that he is that guy. Because he's not that guy, and he hasn't shown to be that guy so far. And that doesn't preclude him from doing it in the future. He just has not done it yet. All right. The next side of the game was the Pelicans. They trotted out the same lineup again. And let's start with Kelly Olynyk, who played 23 minutes. His first start, he played 25 minutes and had 3 rebounds. And then he's combined for 27 rebounds in the next 2 games. He had 6 and 12 with a steal and a block and 3 assists, which is, like, all right. If he hadn't shot 17%, it would look better. He's okay to stream. I do not believe that he's going to turn into post-deadline league-winning Olynyk. I don't think that player exists anymore. But the numbers he's putting up, they've got a nice little run of games coming up. I don't mind having him just for that. Yves Missy's best game in a while, and this is the problem I've had with Missy, is that he has his best game, and it's incredibly mid. 10 and 11 with a block. Like, that's whatever. It's fine. It's not anything that I look at as a must-roster spot, but again, like I just said with Olynyk, their schedule works pretty positively at the moment. Trey Murphy did not shoot well early on. He recovered some good value at the end. 24, 4 and 4, 2 steals and 2 blocks. And in this game, we got 29 Bruce Brown minutes. And like, again, this ties back in. I said it on the Grizzlies and Suns game, and I can say it for almost every game. He's been playing 14 minutes a night. And then they decide, all right, Jose Alvarado, who's part of the heart and soul of this team, you're not going to play. We're going to go to Bruce Brown. So Alvarado was under 20 minutes. Now, the line from Alvarado, 7, 5 and 4 is fine-ish. But is this the new pattern? Alvarado goes from starter so Olynyk can start, and then the 2 new guys who come in a trade as part of matching salary are the guys that get prioritized. It seems pretty dumb, doesn't it? But I don't know. That's what they're doing. So I'm not going to rush to add Brown. 8, 6 and 6 and 3 steals is good, but literally nothing in any of the other games suggests that that's a real thing. And I wouldn't sure I'd be dropping Alvarado, but it could happen. Zion was fine. He wasn't good, but he was fine. 18, 6 and 3 and subpar CJ game, which I do think we'll get more of those. I also don't think you need to hold Karlo Makovic. they're prioritizing other guys now, so move on. 8-2 in 18 minutes for Carlo. All right, so let's move on to another Charlotte Hornets blowout. They lose to the Warriors 128-92. And that is, without exaggeration, that makes this the worst stretch of any team ever for 3 games in a row. So when we're trying to get takeaways out of this team and these performances, understand that. There has literally never been a worse 3-game stretch than what we've seen here. LaMelo Ball was out, resting on the second game of the back-to-back. Now, they came out of the All-Star break playing 5 games in 7 nights. We knew that was going to be a really crowded period. Ball was coming in off the injury. Williams was coming in off the failed trade, so there's going to be all this sort of stuff. And it's a really ridiculous load of games they place on them. So I'm not fully excusing it, but I don't expect that it's going to be this bad as we move forward. LaMelo was out, but what they did is they activated 2-way legend KJ Simpson, who'd been playing really well prior to the break, and then they decided instead of converting his contract, we need to hold his days. And then they'd been starting Alfred Payton, but not today. It was KJ that started, and then Mark Williams replaced Yusuf Nurkic. But not only did Mark Williams replace Yusuf Nurkic, Nurkic went from the starting center, and then he'd been the second string center, to being out of the rotation. So, yeah. What the hell do I make of that? I don't know. If Nurkic was getting 23 minutes, averaging between starting and coming off the bench, then we use him. 0 makes it tough. Let's start with Williams, who was 12 and 12 and 3 blocks. It's not blowing us away, but it's okay. It's fine. I thought Simpson was good. 16 and 6 with 2 steals, 39%. If they commit to starting him, if Ball happens to get shut down at any point, then I would use Simpson, but I'm not doing it now. Damian Barr had 9 and 6 with 5 assists and 2 steals on a horrible 15%. But the other stats are nice, and it seems that every game that Barr plays, he gets almost 30 minutes, and that makes him usable to stream. Miles Bridges, who was on the Sell High show today, he shot 18%, had 9 and 7. One of the biggest sell high slaps you'll ever see. While Nicky Smith was trash, 9, 2 and 2, 111. Remember, if you did add Nick Smith this week, it was likely because of a 3-game in 4-night stretch. 2 of those are down. You might want to hold for the next one, but obviously it's terrible stuff. Wendell Moore played 28 minutes and he was fine, 12 and 10. I really don't believe in his talent whatsoever. And then we get to Moussa Diabate, who played 23 minutes. He had 5 and 4. He had 2 blocks. Is that good enough to hold? I don't think so. I don't think he's good enough to hold through middling performances like this. He is 219th over the last 2 weeks in 22 minutes a night. There might be a period where he gets to do more, but I honestly don't care to find out and wait for it. The Warriors ran the same starting lineup. And this is how you know this game was crazy. Their second best fantasy producer for the day was Kevin Knox. Did you know Kevin Knox played for the Warriors? He had 12, 5 and 4 with 2 threes, a steal, and 2 blocks in 15 minutes. This game was over so early. So what am I going to take out of it? Pejagibski, 10 and 5, whatever. Moses Moody, 13 with 3 threes, cool. Jimmy Butler played 19 minutes. Draymond played 23. It's a game that was over immediately. Yuri Collins and Jackson Rowe combined for 18 and a half minutes. Again, have you heard of those people before? I have, because this is my job, but I don't know if you have. I do not take, I'm not spending any time on it. Thousand Blossoms Bloom and all that stuff, but you can take nothing out of this. Like, literally, as sexy Ned Flanders would say, stupid sexy Flanders, you should take nothing at all out of this game, especially from a Golden State side. And now we get to the anticipated game, Luka Doncic against his former team, the Dallas Mavericks. The Lakers win at 107-99. We'll start in Dallas. They moved Max Christie into the starting lineup, replacing Dante Exum for Max Christie's revenge game against his former team after he was traded without his knowledge and moved up and had to move cities during the middle of the season. He wanted to get his revenge there. They also kept Kessler Edwards at center, but not for the second half because Jason Kidd's favorite security blanket, Dwight Powell. Yeah, he's back. And Powell started the second half. Let's start with Dwight Powell because, again, they don't have any other centers. So the question's going to be, is Dwight Powell worth it? And the answer is no. He had 2 points with 5 rebounds. He had a block. He played 16 minutes. What Dwight Powell is a random rebound streamer who gets high field goal percentage sometimes. Also, again, we're here. Don't doubt history. The Moses Brown cycle has ended. He got DMP'd. He sucks. Like, he's terrible. He is one of, and this stat is always so funny to me, is you look it up, and you go, how many people in the world are like 7 foot tall? And it's like 2,300. So if you're just 7 foot tall, you've got a 1 in 2,000 chance of making the NBA, basically. Not quite. Well, it's actually higher than that because there's more than one 7-footer in the NBA, isn't there? And your only requirement is to be 7 foot tall. And that's where Moses Brown comes in. Kyrie was great. 40 minutes, 35, 7 and 4, 3 steals and 2 blocks. And Klay Thompson also, 22 and 8 with 5 threes. Klay's been playing better of late. I still don't think that he's an absolute must, but that's better production. And then Najee Marshall, he's sort of stuck at 24 minutes. I would have thought that with everybody out, he'd play 30, but I guess not. 9 and 5, 3 assists, 2 steals and a block. And with those sort of numbers, if Najee did play 30, we'd absolutely lock him in 12s. PJ Washington, the Gattuso legend, he did it, didn't he? Because you look at that, you go, man, 10 rebounds, let's go. 5 assists, we're off here. 4 blocks, 1 steal, what a legend. And then 0 of 9 from the field. This is PJ. Nothing is changing from PJ. He just does this all the time. He will have a monster in the next one, have 70% shooting and 50 points or something. Maybe he is our dash past 50-point legend. This is who he is. You still roster him, of course. Christie, back in the starting lineup, played 37 minutes. That's a big chunk, isn't it? 10 points. On 31% with 6 assists. He did have 1 rebound though, so I guess that's something with a block. I think Christie has been a solid ad. The last 2 games of making me like, I don't know. I would try to hold on to him, but also if your playoffs are starting on Monday, he absolutely is not immune to getting axed. You can move on and get somebody else in if that is what you need. Also, you're obviously not rostering Kessler Edwards, who had 4 points in 13 minutes. Let's go across, because I know you're waiting anxiously to see what the Lakers' box score was like, to see the production, to see Luka with his revenge game against his former team. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but wait, this is not a real revenge game until he goes back to play against Dallas. Luka's game was good. He put up very good numbers. 35 minutes, 19, 15, and 12, 3 steals and 2 blocks. He shot horribly again. And in terms of fantasy points, it's the 6th highest fantasy point total that he's had all season. And I will restate it again. When I talk about revenge games not being a real thing for application in fantasy, DFS, and gambling, it's not that I am here to doubt whether a player has extra motivation. We saw Luka staring down the benches at all times. My thing that I say is there is no provable, statistical significant increase in production for players against their former teams in the first game or the second game or the third game or whatever that would lead you to do that and overweight the bet's fantasy value in a player in that spot. And while that is a good game from Luka, he had a better game literally yesterday. Yesterday, in a non-revenge game spot. That is the entire point of this. Case closed. LeBron, 27 and 12. He's been playing at such a high level, man. Like, I don't know how he's doing this. He's the 6th ranked player in fantasy over the last 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. He's 10th in fantasy points leagues. He's averaging, 48 fantasy points a game? How? Austin Reeves, pretty good. 20 points again, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, pretty strong stuff. And then Hachimura with another solid game. Now, we know who he is. He's a points guy. He had 15 points. He had 6 rebounds. Big zeros in the assist and steal columns. That's what he does. But he added 2 blocks. He is a stream level guy. He is absolutely not a must roster guy. But I look at the advanced roster number sitting at 99%, and I still want to stick my fingers straight up into my eyes or somewhere. Because why would you make that guy an absolute fixture on your roster? Dalton Connect had 5 points in 10 minutes. Cannot believe that he failed to pick 17, 16? Doesn't matter. Jackson Hayes, only 17 minutes, 8 and 8 with 2 blocks. Like, if you've got Jackson Hayes on your roster, you're not actually expecting that much more than that. But he's absolutely not someone that you look at and go, right, we're set. I got my center. I'm not going to use that spot for anything else. He's fine. There are so many of these centers that float around that you can just stream through and get 7 games of mediocre production versus 3.5 games of mediocre production that you would get from holding on to somebody like that in that particular spot. Should we do the lines of the night now? Let's go to it now. The monstrous line of the night, it goes to Kyrie Irving. Kyrie had 35. He had 7 rebounds. He had 4 assists. He had 3 steals, and he had 2 blocks. It was an absolutely monstrous performance, although they didn't get the win. The waiver wire line of the night, the best performer who's available in over 70% of Yahoo leagues, we're going to Bol Bol. I have no idea whether it will hold. I would guess that it won't. But 23, 8, and 2 blocks. Add him for now and then move on later. The young gun of the night, the best first or second year performer, we go to Jalen Wells, who went from 22 minutes to 40 minutes. 19 points with 5 triples and 5 rebounds. Nothing more than a 3-point streamer. Absolutely not someone you must go and grab. And then for the second time in his back-to-back games, actually, for him, Steph Castle is your dud of the night. 4 points and 4 rebounds. He had started to sort of push up, and then everything has just turned disgusting. I wouldn't bother with him in 12-team formats at this point. And that, guys, is the end of a recap show. It is National Carpe Diem Day. Haven't had any personal chefs reach out to me on National Personal Chef Day if they want to offer their services, but that's okay. That's all right. I know where I stand. Hit the thumbs up on the video, subscribe, and leave your comments down below. Hit me your revenge games down below as well. And keep it real. Keep it positive. Keep it going. Let's keep the what am I trying to say? Let's keep the vibes good. Let's keep the encouragement up. And like DBAD, don't be a dick. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.